ENGN Preview Series number 8, A Place in the Sun by Radomir Mirchev, aka Gad. Yo, my peoples, what's up? It is the ENGN Preview Series. We are back with another fresh assault on your wallet. So we have the privilege today of being joined by the designer of a current Kickstarter that is now there. We have a couple of weeks left by the time we post, so hopefully you have a lot of time to make a good decision about whether you want to buy this. The game is A Place in the Sun, and the designer is coming to us from Bulgaria. He is Gad. Welcome to the show.
Hello, guys. Happy to hear. Well, to be heard.
That's all right. So yeah, I wanted to have you on because the Kickstarter looks really interesting, and it's a little bit of a different take because there's a lot of I love theme, right? And I'm looking at the Kickstarter page, and it just kind of bursts out like this game has a pretty, it's familiar, but there's doing some different things with it. So I definitely wanted to have you on. Before we talk about the game itself, though, I would love to hear a little bit more about you as a designer, as a quote unquote graphic design slave, as you identify yourself in the video, and also Vermin Games. So yeah, let's if you could share a little bit about yourself, feel free.
Yeah, there's plenty to say because I'm involved with creating games in different forms since whatever it seems like.
And actually, we were talking before, and you mentioned that you have a LARP, live action role play, that you're pretty quote unquote famous within certain circles. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's an annual event we're holding since 2009. For 8 years. Each year, I'm gathering more than 100 people in some abandoned military bases, real ones.
That's so much fun. What a place for a LARP.
Yeah, and creating a horror adventure based on Strugatsky's book, A Picnic Near the Road, I think it's in English. Well, it's a Russian book which is very popular by the name of Stalker. Stalker is a popular computer game and a movie. Well, since I'm loving the book and it offers a great story, a great chance for immersion, we have created this event in which you take the role of stalker who enters the mysterious zone, which is full of danger, and it's probably, kind of sure, an alien invasion place. So the stalkers go into it, risk their lives, take strange artifacts and sell them on the black market. On the other hand, there are the military guys who protect the zone from the stalkers. They are the science guys who want to know more about it and need the help of stalkers beyond the wall. So, and there are the mutants inside it. So it's a very, very horror and very strong feeling adventure, which I'm organizing for the people who like this stuff since years. And it was no surprise that from this idea, at some point I said to myself, why don't I make a game which is not in the same setting, but it's close enough. It's the post-apocalyptic nuclear adventure, Bright Future, which we have developed and Kickstarted and delivered 2 years ago.
Yeah. So, it's successful Kickstarter. I think it was Vermin Games' first official production. I will be reviewing that game in a couple of weeks, either on the website or on the podcast. So I'm definitely into heavy theme, heavy story, adventure type things. So, this is kind of turning towards A Place in the Sun. This is very different, right? So as opposed to like being a big RPG game, this is a very small card game, but it has still a lot of elements of theme in it. So maybe you could break down the basics of it, and then we can go on and talk about some of the particular things going on.
Yeah, first of all, I'm a great sci-fi fan. And I have read maybe every piece of classics in science fiction. And starting from that, I love space themes and space war themes. On one hand, I wanted to create a game which has some overall concept which is space and which sounds a little generic. On the other side, I wanted to show the strong side of different factions, which are far from what you expect from a space game. For example, the humans in the place in the sun are pretty realistic guys. The guys, they're a take on humans which is kind of cynical and kind of full of dark humor.
So as opposed to a lot of space humor where the humans are like heroic and they're the young people in the big space federations, these guys are like more like you were saying, cynical. They're more like, they're destructive and all sorts of different twists on it.
Add to all the science fiction heroism and spaceships and space carriers and stuff. Then add some real things like corruption and bureaucracy and politics, which we have and seem to be a part of our civilization. Then why don't games put this into their theme? It's so rich and so interesting because, well, in our game, humans are maybe the strongest faction. They have the strongest ships and weapons and stuff, but they are also self-destructive. They have cards which harm themselves. So, which is very well bound with the mechanics of the game, with the mechanisms I'm using to build it. Because, well, you have those dials, the planetary dials, which determine how many cards you have to play during your turn. So when you're playing cards, at some point you want to stop. You're starting with a democracy regime because humans have their politics determining their dial positions. So you start in democracy regime, which gives you the opportunity to play free cards, which may be good. But if you increase your regime, you have a better combo potential. You may have better things. You may achieve better things with your cards, but you bear greater risks because there's a great chance that you have negative cards in your hand. So on the other side, you may want to decrease your planetary position, the dial, which is a key element to the game, to the left, using some totalitarian regime or authoritarian. In this case, you have to play only one or two cards. You will play your best cards each turn, which in short terms will be good because you will play your best cards and do some damage and do some stuff. But on the long run, well, you need to make some combo to make an explosion to change things. So the good side of this thing is that being some dictator on your planet, playing in these regimes means you will be able to discard cards. Your dial gives you this opportunity. So on one side you have control. You have control turn and discards. So you consolidate your deck. You make it better. On the other side, you have chaos, but you have effectiveness.
Okay.
So this is with the humans, and there are 3 more factions.
And they all play very, very differently, from what I understand.
Yeah. You have those space bugs, the Arachnites, which are kind of inspired by Heinlein Starship Troopers. So the Arachnites are your typical aggressive space bug faction, which has so many cards which are, well, weaker than the human cards, but they don't have bad cards. Everything for the swarm. You swarm up with insects and roaches and ravagers. You throw them to the enemy and try to make enough damage and to eat out their defenses. But your best cards take away. They change your dial position to the left. So in the next turn, again, this crucial moment. In the next turn, you will have the ability to play less cards. So it is very important because this dial gives you an opportunity to plan your turn and to make strategic decisions, which is kind of different from many card games or card-based games like this.
Right. So that's I'm glad you mentioned that. It's a question that a lot of backers have when they open up a game like this. They see, okay, a competitive short space card game or a card game that's set in space where it's like competing factions. That's a very crowded field, right? You have Star Realms. Before that, one of my personal favorites is Race for the Galaxy. I'll play that all the time. There's a whole bunch of different, we a couple episodes ago, we had Trade Wars Homeworld, which is another competitive card game. Do you feel what kind of separates this game from that? Is it the dial system? Is it the approach to theme? Like, what do you think? What is your pitch when you say, okay, this is different than all those other games?
Well, it's everything together, but first of all, I'd say the theme, because every faction is very different and very strong themed, and you can pick your favorite factions among it. But also in terms of mechanics, it's different with this feeling of control you have during using the dial. Well, I have also played Star Realms, and let's make this a base for comparison. Star Realms is pretty simple, and being a deck builder, you have a great ability to build your deck and do stuff, but you cannot manage your hand. Usually you throw your hand to the table, do some stuff with it, and well, you don't have many options to make a useful turn. You use what you have, and you cannot use it in many ways. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So like you get a hand of 5 cards, you play them, and you just follow the cards, right?
Yeah.
The game, in a sense, plays you. Once you finish your turn, then the game happens because you choose which cards go into your deck, and that's a choice. But once you have your hand, it's like, here you go.
Yeah. On the other end of the spectrum, stay games which are heavy management. Like you have a hand which is pretty complicated. You can manage it, which is true for A Place in the Sun too. You can manage your hand and make decisions, but it's again pretty random because, well, you have those 5 cards or 6 cards or whatever, and you play them in the best way you can, but you don't know what will be your next cards. And you have fixed amount of play actions each turn. Well, A Place in the Sun is very different from that because it's more versatile. It gives you the ability. There are many cards which say things like, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and, well, draw one. And every time you look or reveal cards using such an effect, you have the option to rearrange your 5 cards.
Okay.
Or their cards, the most infestation cards, some infestation cards say, well, look at the top 5 cards of the enemy. So you look them, do whatever you do with it, and then rearrange them. So you have an influence on what will be your next turn. and what will be the enemy next turn. And you have the ability to, to make a choice based on the information. How many cards will the enemy play? He has 5 cards in hand, but you see his dial. Well, he will play 3 of those 5 cards, or all 5 of these 5 cards. Well, what if I put something bad into his next hand? So I'll be sure that at some point he will have to play this bad infestation card, and it will bring benefit to me.
So are there any other, did you get any inspiration from other more tactical 2-player card games?
Well, it's not necessary to be 2-player.
Oh, okay.
I kind of love Smash Up because it has a great hand management potential again.
Mm-hmm. And you can hurt people in a variety of ways in that game. So you could hit them directly. You can, not they have no hit points, but you can injure their victory points. You could injure their minions. You can take the base before they want their base. So I imagine there's a lot of that kind of.
You have a goal and you have much management to achieve that goal. But again, when playing, for example, Smash Up, first of all, you have no control on your deck. You have no ability to know, no option to understand which will be your next cards. And on the other hand, well, maybe some factions do this. The zombies, they use your discard pile as a deck, but it's kind of an exclusion. On the other side, it looks simple. You play 1 minion, 1 action, but sometimes there's great downtime between the turns.
Yeah, people have to read all those cards.
Yeah. So I have, my goal was to create a game which is easy to set up, easy to enter play. You just have to pick your planet into your solar board. I'm gonna tell a little more about the solar boards after that, but you pick your planet, your solar board, you take your power reserve, and you're ready to play. Mm-hmm. And then there is a great difference according to that which faction you picked, which solar board you have chosen, and what path do you choose to follow during your play. If you're a human, for example, would you go to anarchy? Would you go to the right in your dial and try to keep 4 or 5 cards playing each turn, which is kind of risky. You might be obliged. You might put yourself in a position to play cards like protests, which hurt your planet. You lose your planetary power, which is kind of your life. But give you the ability to increase your position, or terrorism, or something like this. Mm. Or will you try to play safe and go to the left and so on? You have choice in every aspect, and a strong theme which is there to make your choice relevant in some way.
Yeah, so like if you're the bugs, you want to direct your play so that you can get all these little skittering little creatures out as possible. You want to kind of increase your ability to play cards. Like you said, the dial kind of makes you play a certain amount of cards. So that's those are decisions, right? You can't, it's not like a Star Realms where you if you get the blob faction, okay, I'm playing a bunch of green cards.
No, it's really decision based because, well, there are even these infestation cards, which I mentioned before. They enter your hand at some point because the enemy either gives them directly in your hand or places them on top of your deck. But after that, it is your decision to play these hostile cards. And if you decide to play them, something bad will happen. But you may still want to do it, because if you play the infestation card, this is one of your play actions. You will keep in your hand the cards you need for later, which may be very good. But this is not the time to use them. You want to make a great combo. And this is only the PvP aspect. We have cooperative mode, which is...
Actually, can I hold off on the co-op mode just for a second? I want to ask just one question before we get to that. Is the actual decks themselves, so is this a fixed deck game? Is it a deck builder?
Yeah.
Do you pre-build your deck? How does that work?
No, well, there are too many deck builders around already.
Okay. You're out of that.
and wife card games. Too many TCGs and LCGs and deck builders and everything. Right. No, you have your fixed deck and you have your planet. Your planet has those dial positions which have, in most cases, have some additional effect. When you are in this position and you play a certain type of card, something additional happens, like you gain 1 power. Because, well, for example, the Arc Knight, being in position 1, 2, or 3, for each Warva card you play, you gain 1 power. But in position 4 or 5, for each Warva card you play, because your planet is already overpopulated with your Warvas, you lose your planetary position. Your Warvas eat your eggs. So bad for you. But you can combine this and use this to your advantage, because you have cards which are powerful and already decrease your position by being played. So you may try to play your Warva cards in the beginning of your turn, and then those cards which decrease your position, you get a point. You try to adapt in some way. So then, in addition, we have the solar boards.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the solar boards. So, like, it's a fixed deck, which might tell people maybe there's not a lot of variety, but there's more elements than that. Like, you have that solar board, so like it works differently depending on what you choose. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the solar boards determine your starting power. And your position bonuses, your special slots bonuses. You know that, in Star Realms it's kind of popular, so I'm using this as an example. Those outposts, which are cards you may place at some points, and they can defend your planet or defend themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. This is, in some way, is similar, because you have the ability, you have 2 types of cards, basically. Cards which are actions, you play them and they go to your discard piles, do whatever they do. And orbital cards, which may be placed normally in your orbital line. You build a line in front of your solar system, in front of your planet, actually. So they act as a defense, and they do their effects every turn. In addition, you may decide to play one of your orbital cards into your moon slot, in moon orbit, on the dark side of the moon of your planet. So playing a card in your moon slot, which is on the same line with your planet, means it will not protect your planet if you are attacked by the enemy, but it will protect itself. Because you have this valuable card you want to keep on every price. You place it on the moon base, so it will be better protected. Different solar boards give you different combinations of starting power, defense bonus on the moon slot, defensive bonuses, or even handicaps on your orbital line, which means the defense of your cards placed to defend your planet.
Great. Okay, so you were mentioning before co-op and solo. I apologize for interrupting that. I wanted to get to the deck thing first, but I actually, because there's not a lot of info about the co-op and solo mode. It's there, but it's not quite described on the Kickstarter page. Maybe you can tell the people about what that big boss deck looks like that we cooperate against.
Yeah, we made one update about this, but we're still working on a play session in the form of a small book, an example game like we did with the multiplayer PvP. So you have the story is well. The story is there were these extinctors, which are robots, kinda created in ancient times, with the simple order to destroy all life. So they have proven very effective in that, and they have destroyed their creators. So they are back and they're destroying everything they meet. So we, as the few intelligent races in space in this end of this part of the galaxy, we have to stop them or extinct. It's pretty simple. So the boss has their own planetary dial, which determines how many cards it will play each turn, which is bound to the number of players. And their cards are basically three types.
Yep.
One of the types is cards which target the highest power player. Another card type targets the player with the lowest power. They are less than the others. And there are, program cards which change their tactics mid-game. So you have to make a setup, which is pretty simple. You in each 10 cards of their deck, you shuffle one of the program cards, and in this way, you place them on top of each other, and you form their deck. The extinctors have been designed in a way to make a smooth increase of the difficulty. So in the beginning of the game, you're feeling really powerful. You start to throw bombs and everything you have on them, and you seem to say to tell yourself things like, well, they have 40 power. We have already taken from them 20 of their power. It's easy. We have done this in 2 turns, maybe. It's easy. And then things happen. Because they have those iBots cards, which do nothing on you. They just, when the extinctor happens to play an iBot, it is placed on top of your deck. So at some point you have to take it in your hand. It's pretty soon. And if you have the ability to discard it with one of your discard cards, it's okay. But you don't have too much discard cards in your hand, in your deck. So you may wanna wait until you have the option to discard an iBot, or keep it forever in your hand, or play it. If you play it, it stays forever in your space, and you cannot remove it. So this is pretty much a non-damage card which infests your space in a way that is a matter of your decision.
Okay, so I'm wondering, I like to kind of compare it to what I already know. So this boss deck, right? It sounds like it's doing, from what you described, it sounds like it's doing something different than just replicating another player. It's its own thing. It follows its own rules. It has scaling. It has all this other stuff. So is it more similar to like the Sentinels of the Multiverse, Aeon's End type thing, where it's like a boss that has its own different behaviors that you have to react to? Or it doesn't go that far? It's just kind of in the middle?
Well, it's kind of simple. It doesn't play very complex. It just throws things on you, but things have been designed in a way that will give you a smooth scale of difficulty. So
yeah. So it's simple. It's not like a big complicated thing, like a whole new set of rules, but it's not exactly just another player sitting there.
No, this isn't the point, because the goal was to create an enemy which is not player controlled, and which makes very simple turns and gives you a smooth of difficulty, and then a smooth increase of difficulty, and then you can put all of your player fantasy, your player wits to defeat it. And since every faction has very complicated options to disrupt the enemy, not just damage them, but look at the top 5 cards of it, or discard cards which may be played by the enemy, or rearrange them by certain conditions, of course. So you have you have to prove yourself against an enemy which is really powerful. It feels challenging in the end.
Great. Okay. So that, are you still kind of working on that, or is that done and it's just waiting for stretch goal incorporation and all that?
Oh, it's done, and well, it isn't a stretch goal even. It's part of the core game. This is what we decided. We decided to include it in the game, so everyone gets it.
Awesome.
The cooperative option, yeah.
Can you play one player? I'm sorry. Can you play one player against the thing, or does it have to be at least 2 characters versus the boss?
No, it's okay. It scales with the number of players, so you can play alone against it.
Great.
And it's still a challenge.
Awesome.
It just starts at less cards, but you have those program cards which increase the number of cards it plays. So eventually it becomes powerful. As much it will be with 4 players, but slower,
awesome.
Of course. So you have a chance to do something, to construct your orbital line, to defend yourself, and build some ability to retaliate, and then try to crush it. But the problem is, by that time, he already infested your space with his cybots, and all his cards became more powerful against you. So you kind of have to play smart against it. It's a stupid robot, you know. It doesn't need to be smart, but it's powerful.
Excellent. So I think that's that covers all of my questions. Is there anything else that you would like to share about the game before we sign off?
Well, I could tell you about the leaders. I haven't mentioned that because on your solar board you have this leader slot. This gives you a little more variety to the game because you have 3 leaders which are shuffled and placed face down in the beginning of the game, and at some point, instead of playing a card because you don't want to play one of your cards, or you need that leader to help you, a certain leader maybe, you may turn face up one of the leaders, discard if there was another in his place, and use his leader ability once per turn. This gives you another, direction of play. Mm-hmm. Another faction ability, say, which is changeable according to the leader you have drawn. And if you haven't found the leader you want, you may repeat that using play actions until you find the leader you need. For example, the humans have this president leader, whose ability is to change your dial, your politics, of course, in any direction by 1 for a cost. And then you have the general or the magnate. The magnate gives you the ability to increase your dial position for a cost and draw a card. And the general, basically he shoots all the people who don't agree with your politics, so you decrease your dial and discard a card.
Excellent. So more theme. You know, I think that's kind of the it really feels like, you know, that's a basic question that designers get asked, like what comes first, theme or mechanics. It really, I get the sense that you've thought a lot about, you know, how theme wise, like how things should interact, and the mechanics just kind of grow out of what you imagine.
Yeah, they have to be hand by hand. You cannot make a thematic game and kind of miss the mechanics, or you cannot take a good mechanics and strap some random theme to it. Things have to be together.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, I think that just about covers it for the game. I mean, you got the Kickstarter coming.
Hmm.
You have a couple weeks. So everybody out there, if you want to, kind of passing through the page, you see, space card game. Why should I back this? Hopefully, we've gone through a lot of different, aspects of the game so that you can make a really informed decision about whether you want to back or not. So I want to thank you very, very much for making the time. I know it's sometimes awkward to coordinate US and Bulgaria time, but this has been great.
7 hours difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has been great. Thank you so much for coming on.
I was happy to to participate.
And that's going to go and be it for another preview series episode. We want to thank Gad for joining us from Bulgaria. Always hard to coordinate these large time zone differences, so definitely want to give a shout out and say thank you for making the time. So, yeah, that's it. Just like the point with all these other preview series episodes, we want to make sure that you have enough information about a game where you can make a good decision about whether it belongs in your collection or not. Especially a card game like this, because there's a lot of games out there. Hopefully, you heard enough to distinguish this game from other games to, like I said, make that decision. So, yeah, if you guys like what you hear, please give us 5 stars on iTunes if you are so inclined. That would be really, really helpful in terms of increasing traffic to the podcast. You can find us at boardgamersanonymous.com. We post regular reviews and blog posts. We have a lot of weekly content that goes up there that's pretty fresh. You can also follow us on Twitter at ENGN_podcast or at BGA podcast. And we are all over the place. You can find us in the BGG One Player Guild. You can find us in the Facebook Solo Groups Guild. Anywhere where people are playing solo games, we try to stick our noses in there and, kind of wave the flag for the hobby. So that's going to be it. This is Jason signing off. Later, everybody.